Hey, we've got the World Cup of drone racing in Muncie this week. Tonight, our Sarah Jones will show us some of the ladies who are involved in that. That's one of the stories coming up here at 10 o'clock. Great to have you with us here on this Thursday night as we inch closer to the weekend. And we're going to get you all set with in terms of the forecast coming up. We've got this green blob on live Doppler 13 right now, so we do know some areas have been getting rain. We've had some storms tonight. We'll get with Angela in a moment. Also, a couple of the other stories we're going to talk about. The cheese lady at the Indiana State Fair is back. We're going to show you her latest creation. And the big COVID story today, continue to see, the numbers climb across the state of Indiana. Our positivity rates going up. Our big question tonight on the 11 o'clock news, will we see kids being bullied for wearing masks? Friend of the show, Emily Longnecker, will join us in a few minutes. We'll talk about that story. But let's bring in Angela to talk about this green blob that's showing up here on Live Doppler.
I have a feeling a lot of people wish it would be even bigger.
Right? We need
heavier.
the rain, it feels like, right?
We need the rain. We've had just a couple of spotty showers.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, north and east, did get some heavier storms. South and west had a couple of warnings. Nothing severe right now. And we're still tracking some spotty showers, but the steadiest rain is still south and east of Indianapolis. That's where we get that area of darker green and yellow indicates some of that steadier rain. The storms have all for now moved on, but we're not quite done with this weather system yet and not quite done with the heat yet. We did make it to 94. That was the hottest day of the year so far. Feels like temperatures this afternoon 100 to 110, and expanding the view, you can see really where the heavier storms are. They're diving almost due south, coming out of Missouri into the southern sections of Illinois, and they'll head toward western Kentucky. So we miss out on that heavy rain, but it also means we're pretty quiet overnight in terms of that risk for severe weather. Future Track 13 shows the spotty showers kind of fading overnight. Might get a couple start to develop right before sunrise. Very similar to the last couple of days, and then keep the umbrellas handy. I don't think it's a washout start to finish tomorrow, but the chance for some scattered showers and a couple of thunderstorms. So best advice, and we've needed it all week with these very difficult to time complexes of storms, is just take us along with you.
Right.
That Live Doppler 13 weather app comes in very, very handy.
Yeah.
I added Trine to my list of alerts.
I know you did.
That's my favorite part of our app. Is you can add alerts. So I've
Right.
got Purdue for Luke and Trine for Grace. And so
Nice.
I added Trine just ahead of, boy, they had a lot of weather this week.
Yeah.
But it's so great that you can kind of keep tabs, not keep tabs on young adults.
No, you want to know what's going on there, right?
If I can let her know if something's coming her way, that's my favorite part of the app. If you haven't done it, you can set different alerts.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
very good. We'll get back with Angela in a moment. We'll talk about the forecast as we head toward the weekend. Let's go ahead and focus our attention now on the big story coming up on 13 News at 11. Boy, we had another nasty day of COVID cases across the state of Indiana. The Indiana State Department of Health reporting another 3,100 cases. Indiana's positivity rate all the way up to 9.6%. And one of the stories that we're covering on the news at 11 o'clock, will we see children being bullied about wearing masks at school? So let's bring in friend of the show, Emily Longnecker. She's working that story tonight. So Emily, what have you learned tonight about your particular angle of this big story?
Well, I mean, Scott, we've seen the debate raging really across the country and here in Indiana about requiring kids to wear these masks in school, right? Whether to mandate it or not mandate it. Of course, we have IPS that is requiring it. Some other school districts not. And so the concern is, especially among some parents that I'm talking to, that, could there develop a bullying situation in say a district or in a classroom where some of the kids are wearing masks and some aren't. A lot of the parents just talking about their own childhoods where kids, when they perceive sometimes a difference in somebody else, sometimes that's who they hone in on, right? So we talked to a clinical psychologist today from IU who gave us some tips, who wanted to give parents some tips should this issue arise in their home with their children. And she talked about just keeping the lines of communication open, that's what parents should do, and let their children know that they're there for them, whether these are kids that are wearing masks to school or whether they're not, right? It could go both ways. And so she said, it's important to let your kids know that you're there for them, that you can talk about it. And then she had some advice for kids. She said, look, bullying can come up for a variety of things, not just around masks. And we've seen that. We've done the stories on it. So she talked about kids, some tips for them. Basically, if the person won't stop, you walk away, you tell a trusted adult, that kind of thing, what you would do in any other circumstance where bullying is going on. So anecdotally right now, she hadn't seen any children in her practice dealing with that. But they, she says it doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, and that it is a concern and that they are looking at that.
That's going to be an important story. We look forward to seeing that tonight on 13 News at 11. Em, thanks for joining us tonight here at 10 o'clock.
Good to see you, Scotty.
All right, Emily, you too, my friend. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and turn our attention to the Indiana State Fair.
Sure.
You spent a few days out there.
We did. The State Fair was fun. And speaking of the fair, before we completely move on, we talked to a teacher, and I think if parents are worried about this, they can reach out to the teacher and say, you know what? My son or daughter is wearing a mask. I would prefer them sitting next to other students that are wearing masks.
Right.
And this teacher said, it's fine, more than agreeable. So, before we move on to the fun part of the fair, coming off our last story, teachers, all you have to do is reach out.
Yeah,
they're willing
absolutely.
to work with you.
That communication between teachers and parents, that's going to be, very important as we get through this school year again. I
was bummed, though, I did not make it to see the cheese lady.
I didn't see it either until we had the video on the news today. The cheese lady, a fixture out there. Look at the creation.
It's amazing.
Sarah Kaufman does such a great job every year. She's created this masterpiece out of cheese. 2,000 pounds of Indiana cheese fitting the fair theme, celebrating the Hoosier spirit. That sculpture, by the way, is stored in a custom cooler in the Ag Hort building. So Sarah really knows how to catch our attention with cheese. So if you're heading out to the State Fair, go to the Ag Hort building and see Sarah's latest creation. She dazzles every year at the State Fair.
And that's the dairy bar.
I know. Can you believe that?
So fun.
And then go to the dairy bar and get yourself a grilled cheese and one of those.
Milkshake.
So you're a strawberry milkshake.
No, I wouldn't, but it looked like that's what she created, was a strawberry milkshake. Did you have a milkshake
You know what?
on Sunday?
It's funny. I worked the dairy bar on Sunday, worked for an hour, and we raised some money for a good charity. And that's always a fun part of it. But they gave me a small milkshake. And as I came out of the dairy bar, my daughter was there. And she was thirsty. She's pregnant. And I said, would you like this? And so before I got even a bite, so I didn't even have a bite of the milkshake.
You're a good dad.
So I got to get back out there. Sunday, Casting Crowns, one of my favorite bands, is performing. So my wife and I are thinking about going out on Sunday and seeing Casting Crowns.
Then you can get your milkshake then. And the weather is going to be perfect.
I know, the weather
weekend
looks amazing with 80s. I didn't see a 90 in the forecast earlier.
Maybe this time next week, but
nice.
We've got some much needed mild days coming our way.
That's good. Hey, you fly drones? Have you ever flown a drone?
No, I find them fascinating and a little weird. Like the sound they make, it's a little
creepy.
A little creepy, like you think you're being spied on from, I don't know, they're a little creepy.
Well, yeah, certainly if they're near your house, you're feeling creeped out. But I don't even know if you knew that there's this whole drone racing league that's happening up in Muncie this week. Our Sarah Jones came up with a really clever story as women are trying to encourage more women to participate. Watch this.
On the quads.
It's like a real life video game, and you're controlling the drone.
Targets acquired.
So this is our radio, which controls the inputs to the drone. And this radio will control how fast these motors spin. There's a camera on the drone that broadcasts video to your goggles. So you're watching through the goggles.
Drone racing is a male-dominated sport. Out of the 300 international competitors in Muncie this week, only 3 are women. The 2 women are hoping to change that.
What I think Clara and I are trying to accomplish is to create an environment where women feel comfortable and where they feel invited.
So they launched Women Multi-GP drone racing at the Multi-GP this week.
We want other women to have a space to mentor other women and just expose women to the drone industry.
The pilots build their own drones, and like any sport, it takes practice.
It probably took me a good 6 months to a year. My first year, I came in dead last every single race.
But 3 years later,
In 2018, I came to this event and I got second place in the rookie, and now I'm on the pro track, so we'll see how it goes.
it's a sport that's rooted in STEM.
You learn about voltage, power meters, programming, video editing, because you're putting together your videos. It's an incredibly educational activity that I recommend to anyone.
Can compete with a 12-year-old or a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old.
Women Multi-GP says they hope to one day launch a women's league.
I think everybody should just go together and fly. It's the most unifying thing there is.
While there are only about 3 women competing on the pro level, Women Multi-GP says the number of women participating has doubled since last year. Their goal is to keep that momentum going.
Really good at doing that, aren't they?
Amazing. Going through that course. Have you ever done flown a drone?
Yeah, all right. So here's my drone story. Okay, so several years ago, my wife and kids, they think, hey, Scott will like, getting a drone. So they go ahead and buy one of the cheaper drones. And I'm all excited. I'm geeked out about this. I'm thinking this will be really fun. I get a chance to fly it, up over my house. So I get it outside, and as I recall, this was a Christmas gift, so it's out. It's snowing outside. I've never flown the drone before. We had the whole FAA, certification. I get out in the backyard, I start it, it goes up, and I hit forward. The thing blasts into the side of the house.
No way.
And stuff comes off the drone, broken. Done. I've had it for 5 minutes. My kids are looking at me going, we should never have gotten this guy a drone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so my kids are probably just still disappointed, probably in counseling as a result of me screwing up the drone.
The drone, yeah. Wow.
So I need to.
So not as easy as like a remote control car.
I think for most people who are good at, video games, it's probably a very easy thing. Me, not so much. All right, how's our wake-up weather tomorrow?
Wake-up weather, I have a couple showers and storms around. I know the planner says it's going to rain every single hour of the day. That's not going to be the case. There will be some dry time. Just check the radar before outdoor plans. No 90s tomorrow. We have enough cloud cover, and with the rain and storms around, that should keep us in the 80s. And speaking of 80s, we're close to 80. Spending most of the day in the 70s is what that means for Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, well, we certainly need the rain. I don't know about your lawn, but my lawn's been pretty crunchy. Yeah. All right, so coming up tonight at 11, Angela's got the full 7-day forecast. We'll be talking about masks and this idea of bullying. That's all part of our big story as we continue to look at the COVID situation. That and more coming up tonight over on 13 News at 11 o'clock. Thanks for joining us tonight at 10.